Well, hey, welcome to another edition of Socrates Explains Everything. My name is Socrates. I like to explain things. Today we're on another one of those unfortunate days. Today's the day we hit 4 million cases of coronavirus across the world. Hasn't exactly slowed down. The daily cases are still about the same. And in some places it's really starting to explode. Now, some countries, they've done a really good job of keeping it under control, but others, not so good. In fact, when you look at the overall numbers, from the first day of the coronavirus, it took us 4 months to hit 1 million cases. But after that, it's been pretty consistent, because it took 12 days to get to 2 million, 13 days more than that to get to 3 million, and we're back to 12 days to get to 4 million. So it definitely isn't slowing down. It's not accelerating, and that's a good thing, but it's definitely not slowing down. And if you look at the numbers around the world, as I said, in the worldwide, it's still about 80 million or 85,000 cases a day. 13 days ago we were only going at 75,000, so it's actually slightly up, but it's about the same. Now in the U.S., with 1.3 million total cases and coming close to 80,000 dead, they had 26,000 new cases this last day, and that's going slightly down trend-wise, but it's still a 2% growth rate, which is still higher than it should be. And I think most of the reduction is basically New York City getting its act under control, and the rest of the country getting more and more out of control. So that's going to be a concern going forward. All these protests and the easing of the lockdown, it's only going to expand the number of people who get this disease. And but if you look around the world, going down in total cases, Spain, they've done a really good job of controlling it. Their downwards numbers are very, very strongly downwards. They only got 1,000 new cases, which is actually 0.4% compared to the previous one. So it's doing quite a good job. Italy also about the same, 1,000 new cases, and they have only about 0.5% compared to the previous the total amount. So they're only growing at 0.5% a day basically. The UK, on the other hand, not quite as well controlled at 4,000 new cases a day and about a 2% growth rate, which is again much higher than we'd like to see, but still better than it was. Compare that to Russia, which has moved up 2 spaces on the total case list, and it's probably going to go a lot higher pretty quickly. They gained 11,000 cases in a day, which is 5.5% of their total case load. And it's better than the 11% or so they were growing at, but it's a very strong upwards curve, and not a good place to be. They just passed Germany, and they only have 1,000 new cases, and again a 0.5% growth rate. Pretty low. Still not gone, but still very, very low. And when you ease lockdown, some of that's going to go up. But Brazil, where they have the South American Trump also denying the existence of this disease or its importance, they grew at 10,000 cases yesterday, a 6.4% growth rate, very, very high, essentially out of control as well. If you don't take this thing seriously, it's really gonna kill a lot of people. Are they the youngest and healthiest? No, but they're still a huge part of our society, and I don't think that just because you hit an age you should be expendable. There was a time people didn't want to talk about death panels. Well, this is literally a death panel or worse. So I don't know. In Turkey they did quite a good job of containing it. Its downwards track is strong. It's only 2,000 new cases, 1.5% growth rate. Again, not quite there, but much, much better, as you can see. Iran, which was out of control, they're down to 1,500 new cases as well, also 1.5% growth rate. So considering how out of control their outbreak was, they've done a good job. It's now bouncing upwards though, lockdown being eased, etc. So they're going to have to make sure they don't let it get out of control again, that's for sure. You know, Canada is fairly flat. They're not really pushing it down. Still 1,500 new cases and a 2% growth rate. But it's 1,500 people. There's a lot of people getting sick. Peru, which is one of the countries that was just percolating, is now 3,000 new cases and a 4.5% growth rate. It's looking a little bit out of control. Hopefully they can clamp it down and keep it from getting to where it's trying to go. Same thing in India, 3,000 new cases. Of course, they've got well over 1 billion people there, so it's a worse potential outcome. You know, there's 30 million in Peru, but 1 point something billion in India. Once you're counting in billions, it doesn't really matter the exact number. It's a lot of people, and they're growing at almost 5%. So that's a very significant concern. Now, fortunately for me, I live here in the Netherlands, where people are taking it pretty seriously, and we only had 300 new cases yesterday, which is a 0.7% growth rate, which is encouraging. But at the same token, lockdown is being lifted slightly. It's a little bit warmer. Yesterday was nice. Today's pretty chilly. But I'd like to see that stamped out completely, because I live here. You know, compare that with the Sweden and the loose lockdown of Sweden. They had 600 new cases, twice as many as we did, which is 2.3% of their total case. So it's a significant a number of cases there in Sweden. They definitely have not flattened or crushed this thing. You know, and of course the two best ones are South Korea, where they only had 34 new cases, which is still, you know, 34 more than if it's you, that ain't no good. But that's 0.3% growth rate. So you can see how good, you know, the 0.7% of the Netherlands or 0.5 for Italy, Spain, and Germany. They've really got it down to almost zero, considering the size of the population and the number of people who had the disease. You know, New Zealand is probably the first country that will get to 0 cases for multiple days. They just had 2 new cases, and they only had 1,494 total cases. So maybe they don't even get to the 1,500, but for them it's 0.13%. So not zero, but definitely not, you know, what we've done for most of them was about 6%, 6.5% for Brazil. You know, little windy day, trees are dropping some sticks, because nature doesn't care about these things. It keeps on doing what it's going to do. So we need to keep doing what we're doing. Be smart, be safe, don't let yourself get sick for no reason. Don't spread this thing for no reason. And go for a bike ride. Find a nice place and make a video. That's what I do. Take a look.